Hey, it's August 3rd here in this crazy year 2020 that we're living through. And as we've been trying to do a couple weeks or every month, wanted to do another market update and doing the screen share here because what wanted to take a look at it is now past July, and I wanted to compare and let's see what 2019 and 2020 look like side by side, considering the pandemic that's going on and how that's changed our real estate market and why this year might look a little different as we head into fall. Traditionally, in residential real estate, you're going to see the end of July be a real big slowdown. You're going to see school starting back. You're going to see a lot of people not willing to move. However, this is a different year, and the numbers show that we're going to experience a very different fall here in our market than we've seen before. So let's take a look here at 2020 versus 2019. And as you might know, I'm usually picking Athens, Clarke, and Oconee just to compare those two counties instead of bringing in other areas where the market activity is quite different. So we're just looking at this direct area. And here we are in 2019. So first 7 months of the year, you had a total listings of 1,700 plus, under contract 1,000, and then your average list price was 286 with a sell price about 5 grand below for average sold price of 281. And then we're looking at the total homes sold 1423. So for the most part, people would consider 2019 a fantastic year in real estate, lots of activity, and appreciation went up that year versus 2018. Let's take a look at 2020. Keep in mind we're having quite the year here, but the numbers are actually pretty good. So if you look at new listings, we got 1,629, which is down from 1,700, but not a tremendous amount. We've got 1,000 placed under contract through the first 7 months. It's a round number, but it did fall there. And that's compared to 1,061 last year. So a very small drop off. The list price is up basically 10 grand, 11 grand. And you show the same thing with the sold price going from 281 to 291.5. So we've got basically a 10 grand push above the board if you compare all the houses. And then the total homes sold is 1,250, which is below 1,423, but that's still very good relative to what we thought it could be. So the activity is still there. We've got a strong market. It's just not quite 2019. But the trend has been we've been catching up. So I want to go through, I've got some graphs here that I did. I want you to take a look at. And these tell the story pretty good. So let's take a look here at 2019, and we'll get it to where you can see the whole thing. So you see I'm tracking new listings, pending homes, and solds for 2019. Now your sold started off very slow, and a steady boom, just big increase going right up till May. And then in May, in the traditional market, what happened? Well, the home sales started to fall off towards July because here comes school. And they would probably teeter into it right about here. Pending homes, very flat line above 100. February, we start getting the spring market. You see they approach 200. They peak in April. So April last year was the peak of pending homes, and then they start to steadily decline through the summer. New listings come into market, as you can imagine. January is a little lower. We start to get higher, and we're peaking in April and May around that 200 mark, 250 mark. However, look at May, which is your peak sales, peak new listings, peak, and then they start to come down. So that's your normal market in 2019. That's what we expect to see. You're going to see a big spring. You're going to come down the hill. But let's see what happened this year, or what's trending this year. Graph looks a little different than it already. So instead of seeing these big peaks and falls, it's a little bit more level. Let's take a little deep dive into 2020. So from the new listings, we started off January pretty normal, right in line with what we saw in 2019. March, right before we saw the pandemic hit, things are starting to trend in the normal direction. And then kaboom, we went down a valley of new listings in April. And this was our low point for new listings. But look what happened. We came right out over the month of May, and then we actually hit our all-time peak in June, which is different. And July is well above new listings that we would typically see. We're almost 250 new listings in July, and it would have been down here in 2019. Pending home sales, same thing, trending normally. Here comes the pandemic, April, the total shutdown and lockdown, and we go into a trough. And then what comes back out? Here we are climbing back up. And in June versus May, we saw the highest amount of pending homes. And then right here, while you do see a trend down in July of pending homes, it's still higher than it typically would be in July. And probably the most notable thing I want to point out is red right here, the sold. So let's take a look. This is counting the total solds of the year. We start off with the low 100s and through January and February, typically a slow time. We ramp up real big in March. We get up to 200 plus sold in March. And then what starts to happen? That same thing. We come down in April, and then the sold sort of fall off right through here. But guess what? Typically, this was the high point in 2019. May was way up here. Well, now in 2020, May was the low point that we started to come out. And as you can see in July, we had a lot more home sales than it typically would have. And this number seems to be trending up relative to the years past. So what does this really mean? It probably means the fall is going to look a little different. Traditionally, where you might not go to market, you can. There's some things you probably need to keep in mind. And let's just discuss these differences here. Compared to 2019, we're down only 109 total listings. That's a really small percentage, which is great to see. The placed under contract or pending units is down 61 units total over the whole year. That's not a month. That's the whole year comparison to this point. And then our average list price, we're up 11 grand, and our sold price, we're up almost that same 11. In total homes sold in 2020, there is a 12% drop off in total activity. However, I think that's a pretty good percentage given what we're all dealing with right now. As we close this out, I'm just going to go over a few things you might want to know and be aware of. What you need to know. First of all, as I alluded to before, our fall market will be much different than years past. You're going to see things have more activity than we're accustomed to on the residential side. So typically in a residential home, you're going to see people kind of get settled by August. And I think we're going to see that be a little different this year. Values are still up in our area, which is a good sign. I know people are expecting impacts, and there will be some. Obviously, commercial real estate and retail and service is going to be impacted. But so far, we're really seeing importance placed on people's homes. And for the most part, values are up. It may not be across the board, but that is the case for most properties. And then number three, what's really important to know is getting a plan in place. Even if you're thinking for next June, that's probably the most important thing you need to do is to get your ducks in a row. And just feel free to reach out to somebody because it's always been important, but it's never been more important now than to kind of have your plan in place on whatever it is you need to do, if that's buying or selling. And lastly, I want everybody to know about these mortgage rates. Historically low rates are happening right now. We are seeing people get locked in below 3%. So that might affect your ability to buy and someone else's ability to buy your house or just refinance. When you can get money for 2.6%, that's good debt. Okay. That's not bad debt. That's not credit card debt. So these are the things we wanted to let you know, try to keep you up to date on what's happening in our market. In the meantime, feel free to just keep following us for updates or reach out to anybody here at Five Market, and we'll be happy to see if we can help you. And I'm going to try to, there we go. There's the stop button.